What is the point of having a plan? In so many circles, business and in event planning, and of course in our lives, in our health and well-being journeys, in our weight loss programs and exercise regimes, having a plan is touted as a important measure of having more success. So, why do so many people resist doing it? Or how come so many people have tried making a plan and then failed and then given up on planning? Today, I want to share my thoughts about the benefits of planning ahead and the how to avoid the traps that I've seen many people fall into when they are planning ahead. So, if you're a person who loves planning, great. Share your thoughts, your ideas, your tips with us today. If you're a person who avoids it, a person who's given up on it, listen in. Might have some advice for you. So, hello, of course, if you're joining me live, say hi in the chat. If you're watching on replay, let me know. Type replay in the comments and share any insights, concerns, and of course, questions that you have along the way. For those of you who don't know me, I should introduce myself. Hi, I'm Brian. I'm a life coach and weight loss coach, and I help serial dieters get out of the weight loss roller coaster, to stop getting on and off and on and off plan, going round and round in circles. I do that by helping people shift their thinking, by really transforming the habits to understand what's really going on and make small changes that they can live with to create a healthy life that you can live forever. How do I know? Well, I've lost 50 kilos and I've maintained that 50 kilos over a period of more than 12 years now. That's over 110 pounds if you're watching in America. So it's my pleasure to be here with you, and in my coaching and in my work in the weight loss industry, I've helped thousands of people. And this concept of planning ahead and getting caught up on planning is one I've seen a lot. So today, I really want to help you. Why don't we start with the benefits? Why does planning come up so often? And how does it really help? Now, I think there are two really big benefits. They may not be the ones you're necessarily thinking. I think that there's a practical benefit and there's a benefit of discovery as well in planning ahead. So let's start with the practical aspects. Why should I plan my meals, plan my exercise, plan my events, plan what I'm going to do when in my life? And I think that when we take the time to plan, and particularly if we make a realistic plan, that what you're doing is you're using a time when you're likely calmer, you're more focused, you're thinking about your goals and your future, that you're making decisions for your future self. That allows you to take the pressure off decision making in the moment. It's a reduction in your cognitive load. Decisions ahead of time use our prefrontal cortex, and that's the part of our brain that has access to our goals, our hopes, our dreams, to what we're really working towards. And so when we're making plans, we are often in a calmer state. We've stopped out of the chaos and the busyness, the drama of our life for a moment to think about the future. Now, as far as we know, this ability to think about the future is one of the things that makes our brain uniquely human. That we have this ability to think and plan ahead, multiple days, weeks, months, years into the future. For most people, though, of course, when we have unplanned decisions in the moment, right, which is what happens if you don't have a plan. You're just going with whatever, you're winging it. You're leaving it up to your future self in whatever state you happen to be in the moment, to make the decision. And that's where so many of us fall down, because often we're living out our lives in unconscious reaction. And so we make unplanned decisions in the moment, right? Just think about that. How much busyness and drama and chaos and lots of stuff going on in your life all of the time. Like, let me know if that's true for you. How many days have chaos or drama or something going on in your life? How many days do you have calm, clear, perfect days where everything goes to plan, where nothing unexpected comes up. Those are pretty rare for most people. So, of course, when we're making decisions in the moment, we are at the effect, the whim, if you like, of our emotions. And it turns out that humans are emotionally driven. All of our actions are driven by our emotions. And so when we're noticing things like stress, chaos, overwhelm, tiredness, fatigue, anger, frustration, disappointment, any of these sorts of strong emotions, particularly the strong negative emotions going on in our life, that our brain feels like that's a threat. It feels like, oh my God, our sanctuary, our serenity, our peace of mind is in danger. And so it actually drops out of thinking mode using our prefrontal cortex, which remember has our hopes and dreams and goals in there. And instead, we have what's called amygdala hijack. The limbic system, the emotional system, takes over. This is our primitive survival mechanism. So it thinks we're under threat, we're under danger. You know, back in our prehistory, in our evolutionary days, the biggest stress was not having enough food, or that someone was going to attack me and try and kill me, or steal my things, or steal my mate, although I wouldn't have a mate. You know, these are the kinds of stresses that were the primitive drivers of our behavior, and our ability to overcome those became wired in. That's why we evolved, that's why we lived, that's why we're the descendants of those people. Because the people who had plans for overcoming that and overcame it successfully lived, passed on their genes, etc. And of course, the primitive wiring that does that is the fight or flight or freeze or fake response. I think they're the the 4 F's that we go to, right? We either fight, we're under attack, we attack back. We're angry, we lash out, we yell, we react violently. Usually unthinkingly, just happens. Or we freeze, we freeze, we lock up, we do nothing. We play dead, right? You see this in the animal world all the time. A prey has been captured or is in danger, they just go completely still, pretend they're dead. And often a predator will give up, not have the fun of the hunt. And then the prey animal, so to speak, is able to get on with its day, run away. So freeze, we often lock up. We don't think, our brain shuts down, we do nothing. Or we fake, we go, la la la, everything's good, there's no problem. We bottle up, we suppress, we hide everything, how we're really feeling, we hide what we really want, and we just going through the motions. We get into automatic robot things. It's kind of like the chameleon effect. I'm just going to blend in. I'm just going to not be seen. I'm just going to pretend everything's okay in order to escape the situation. Or, of course, we flee. We run away. We hide. We ignore. We avoid. We procrastinate. Do any of these show up in your life? Ever? Do any of them get in the way of you achieving your goals? They do get in the way of our goals. And one of the reasons is because when we are in flight or fight mode, not only do we stop thinking, research shows our actual cognitive brain, our thinking brain does in fact shut down. We stop thinking. And so what we do go to is our unconscious, trained in reactions, our default behaviors. And for many of us, we've trained in lots of healthy coping mechanisms for those uncomfortable or unpleasant emotions. In that survival mode, our brain will be encouraged to seek pleasure. Right? That's the old, go stock up on food. If you're stressed because there's no food, go find some. And if you can, find the high-fat, high-sugar things, because they're going to be the most kilojoules in the least volume. They're going to tide you over longer. So our brain wants to seek pleasure. Just eat. Or be distracted with other pleasurable activities. Scrolling Facebook, playing games, watching porn, all sorts of things, right? Pleasure. Avoid pain. Run away, hide, go back in the cave, lie down on the couch. Yeah? Avoid pain. Conserve energy. Do what we've always done. So if you have an association with comforting yourself, pacifying yourself, remember like a child, like a toddler, pacifying yourself with food, particularly feel-good food, high fat, high sugar, high salt type foods, those comfort foods. Foods that you have association with feeling good about, then you're going to be more likely to just go to those. We're going to keep running the old programs. Now, of course, for most of us, those are the unhealthy habits that got us here in the first place, that led us to the life that isn't the one we want, that isn't the weight I want, that isn't the fitness in our bodies, the capability to do the things that we want in our life. It's been in the way. So let me circle back around. Of course, making those decisions ahead of time means you don't have to make the decision in the moment. You don't have to be at the effect of your emotions because you've already decided what you will do. You've come up with a plan. Now, if you've come up with a plan that's really effective, you'll have thought about the state you'll be in when it comes time to enact the plan, and you'll have set yourself up for success then. So having a plan takes away the pressure on our brains. We have less cognitive load, which means we're calmer, we're more able to make the kind of decisions that actually lead us towards our goals instead of away. So for me, this is one of the big benefits of planning. But of course, I hear some people say, but I don't want to be locked in, I don't want to be that regimented, I don't want to have to always do the thing exactly as I said it. Now remember, making a plan does not mean you have to follow the plan 100%. Now, I like to promote, I'm going to talk about later in this video about how to make a plan that you can follow 100%. But you don't have to follow it. All we're saying is, I want to make it easier for me in the moment in the future, making it easier for my future self, so that if I'm feeling overwhelmed, my cognitive capacity, my ability to think clearly is already taken up, I'm in a low willpower or low motivation state, then I don't have to think about it. If I do want to think about it, and I do want to make a conscious decision that moves me towards my goals, right? If it is helpful for me, something's come up and I want to change my plan, you can. I'm not saying, so having a plan doesn't mean you can't change it. Just means you're set up for the times when you don't want to or can't make that decision in the moment. That's the power of having a plan, right? Making decisions in advance is about making it easier for you later. It doesn't stop you making new decisions in the moment. It does help you to not make the decisions that are against yourself, that are from your emotional survival brain. You get to keep your power to make decisions from a clear, thinking, active place. So, for all those people who don't want to be locked in, you're not. You're just taking the pressure off for yourself. Wouldn't you like your journey to be easier? Wouldn't you like it just be easier to go with the healthy choices that you actually want to be making? If you would, a plan can go a long way. So remember, you can, of course, deviate from a plan. A plan is not locked in stone. It's not 100%. It's not, some kind of ironclad contract. It's just, how am I helping my future self make decisions? And if you do want to deviate from a plan, you can, but do make sure that you like your reasons. Check with yourself, is that deviation honoring what you really want? In fact, let me know in the comments, when you deviate from your plan, is it usually because you're honoring what you really want overall? Or do you find that that deviation is for a fleeting desire, a short-term thing that you want in the moment? Have you ever given in to do what seemed like a good idea at the time, only to regret it later? For many of you, this is your default decision when you're planning or not planning. You're just focusing on being strong, having more willpower, being motivated. But that's a bit sketchy. Willpower is the limited resources that wears down over time. Motivation waxes and wanes. It's like a wave. So I don't recommend depending on willpower and motivation. They're not always going to be there. All right. So that's number one. Decisions in advance. Take the pressure off your cognitive load. Planning ahead is making a gift, making it easier for your future self. There's another big benefit though too, and that is discovery. When you make a plan, you'll actually, what you'll find is all of your stuff, and you've made a plan, you believe you can commit to it, and you're committing to doing that plan. Very often, those moments of temptation or the urge to deviate will reveal to you. They'll show you what you're resisting, what your thoughts are, what your feelings come up for you when you are tempted to deviate. That's powerful information, right? If, for instance, we've always eaten chocolate or chips or cake or biscuits when we're upset, and we've made a plan not to, and again, there's a way to do that that's helpful and not, but let's say you have, that honoring your plan then is going to bring up all of your emotions, going to tell you in your brain what's really going on in that moment when previously you would have just eaten the biscuit, numbed yourself out of the moment. We call that buffering against the moment, and then probably move past it into guilt and regret, remorse, etc., to another chain of reactions. But you'll have missed the opportunity, missed the moment to learn what you were really trying to solve with the biscuits, the cake, the chips or the chocolate, whatever it was. You'll have missed out on that moment. And this is at the heart of the work I do with my clients, and it's the way I help people, is to really uncover what's going on, and then from a place of love and compassion, not criticism and judgment and blame, but from a loving place go, wow, is my solution here actually helping? Because most of us know it isn't, right? Otherwise we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have our health problem, our weight problem, so to speak. We wouldn't have these unhealthy habits trained in. So we get to reveal what's really going on. We get to have a look at it. Is that really a solution? And if not, we get to start to think about, brainstorm, and then test out other solutions that actually might help better. This is how we train in new habits that actually solve the real issue and not just giving in to that primitive drive to medicate, to buffer, to avoid in the moment. So I think that's a really powerful reason to have a plan, because you want your stuff to come up. Then you decide to get to keep it or change it. Of course, that's the work we do in coaching. We find new ways to do it, new ways to think, new things to try out. So if you have habits that aren't helping, it's worth planning for next time I'm tempted to, when I feel like I might try this instead, right? So the discovery aspect is really useful if you do have habits that aren't helping as you move towards your goals, If you have desired actions that you're not taking, like going for that walk after work, or saying no to that second glass of wine at the party, or cooking a healthy dinner 5 nights a week, right? If you're not taking those, then either you have a plan that's not working or you haven't made a plan. And a plan can really help you there, right? What do you think you'd lose or have to give up if you made a plan, particularly for a person who's resisting planning? Again, I have so many people go, I don't want to make a plan, I don't want to be locked in, right? We talked about that before, but here it plays up too, right? What do you think you'll lose? We already said you don't lose the freedom to choose, you retain that. You always have it. The trick is to be able to come at it from a calm, clear, centered place with your goals and dreams in mind. Now, if that's not usually available to you, plan's a good idea. So, really think about what you think you'll lose if you make a plan, or you get locked in. What might you gain? It occurs to me that one of the other reasons people don't make plans is because I don't want to make a plan. It's because they have a history of not following through on the plan they made. Or because they think they'll say things or think things to themselves, they'll be mean to themselves if they don't follow it. They'll be disappointed, or they'll be angry with themselves, they'll be frustrated, they'll be annoyed. Think about if that's happened for you. Maybe you have a history of trying to make planned things and then not following through on the plan and then being critical, judgmental, being mean to yourself about it. That don't work. Of course you don't want to make a plan if that's been your history. So can we do it differently? Well, to help you with that, I thought I'd quickly cover some of the mistakes that people make and some advice I've had from my years of experience of planning about what actually works. What are the mistakes people make when they're planning? Well, firstly, they often plan for being perfect. They think that I'm just going to plan out all of these things and I'm just going to follow them and I won't have any drama or any resistance to that. I've just decided now and I'm just going to do it. And mostly, for most people, that's pretty unrealistic. Particularly if you've made too many changes or too big a change at once. I see this so often. This is what most people do with New Year's resolutions or starting a diet or a weight loss program or getting fit. And they go, okay, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. I'm going to change everything. And I'm never going to have any drama about it. No. And of course, they have drama that real life sets in after a couple of days or a couple of weeks. And then suddenly they had no plan for that. And because they set the expectations so high, they made such a change that was so different from what they ordinarily will do, that then it's just like, oh, well, I'm just no good at it. I just have no willpower. I'm just not strong enough or disciplined or focused enough. No. You just didn't have a very realistic plan. You set yourself up for disappointment, for failure, for criticism. So don't plan for perfect. Don't assume that you're going to be perfect. Don't assume that there's not going to be any drama about doing the things. There will be. Don't plan too many things at once, right? That's a big mistake. Going to change everything. Another mistake is planning to go without. These are passive goals, or sometimes what I call dead person's goals. You know you've got one of these if your plan, your goal is to not have or not do something that you normally would, right? So I call it a dead person's goal because you ask yourself, if your plan, for instance, is to not eat chocolate after dinner. Okay. Well, you ask yourself, well, could a dead person do this goal? Could a dead person not eat chocolate after dinner? Yes, very easily. They're dead. They're not eating anything. Right? Notice how passive it is. I'm planning to not do something I would, but you have no plan for how you'll go about that or what you'll do instead. That's the part that actually needs planning. When I feel like chocolate, instead I will. And then we're going to try out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 things. And remember, the mistake here is not planning for a real life. Not thinking about how you actually feel in the moment of having to act on your plan. You might be tired at night. You might be bored. You might be wanting something sweet. Okay, have you planned for that? That's a mistake. If you haven't, if you've planned to just be in the same state as you were when you're making the plan, probably a mistake. Another mistake is abandoning your plan and then ignoring why. Just assuming that you're not disciplined enough, you're not focused enough, you're not good enough. Right? No. Right? Have you ever done this one? I had this really good plan, but I was going to not overdrink at the party, or I was not going to overeat. But then it was so nice, it was really thing, and everyone, said there was, go on, it's a party, it's a special occasion. And I used willpower, and then eventually the willpower went out, and I just had it. And then you go, stuff it, I've blown it. Oh well, might as well really blow it. You ever done that one? You've done what I call the slash the tires. You had a tire breakdown. You've gone around and slashed all the other tires instead of getting back on track, right? But what we often do there is the mistake that people make is, oh, well, I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't disciplined enough. No. In my plan, what had I not taken account of? What had I not thought about? What has now been revealed to me that I can use next time I'm making a plan, right? It's not the abandoning that's the problem. It's not the deviation from your plan. It's the ignoring why. Not listening to how I was feeling. What was I thinking during that moment? What was really going on for me? Because if you can pay attention to those things, then you can learn valuable information. That's the discovery aspect. The last mistake I wanted to share today, of course, is criticizing yourself when you don't follow the plan. I'm stupid, I'm weak-willed, I'm lazy, I'm no good. You're hopeless, you'll never get this. Why bother? No. It's not a critique of you. It's not about you as a person or as your character. It's just, did you have a realistic plan? Or if not, you've had the opportunity to learn something. So can we just agree that criticizing ourselves, we often think we want to. If we criticize ourselves enough, if we feel bad enough, we'll be motivated to do better next time. That just never works. I've just never seen it work. So can we in fact love ourselves forward? It's okay. You made a decision. You're a human. You chose something else in the moment. Okay. Now what? Because you're still a human with a brain, you have the power now to make a new decision. All right. So, how do we do it successfully? Well, here are my top tips. Right? If you want to make a plan, or you want to make a better plan than you have been, I really encourage you to give it a go. But to do it successfully, you want to do some things. Firstly, set aside some time and prioritize your planning time. Be free of distraction. Give yourself some space. If you're new to planning, allow more time than you'll think you'll need. Let's say you're planning ahead your meals for a week. If you've never done it before, you haven't done it for ages, you might need an hour. Now, I plan my week in about 3 to 5 minutes these days, but because I'm very practiced at it. I have a repertoire, a database of things to draw from because I have practice. When you're new, you might have to stop and think about things in the way you haven't before. Okay, so set aside and prioritize planning time. When you're first making a plan, start as close as possible to what you would ordinarily do. Don't start with the perfect, where I want to be in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months time plan. Start with where I am today and what realistically could I foresee myself making a small change with, right? So start as close as possible to what you ordinarily do, even if those aren't behaviors that you want to keep ultimately. Right? This is the thing, we often want to reject the existing behaviors outright. But that's not how behavioral training works. Right? You have to put something new in. When you're putting something brand new, starting from scratch, like people want to do, clean the slate, there's a big amount of work involved. No. Start with what you have. Start with the routines, the rituals, the habits you already have, and modify them slightly. Small modifications are easier, so make small changes one at a time. This means you'll have to use less willpower, and you'll have more follow-through, right? Because it's less willpower, plan for low motivation. And that will help you actually make more of the changes, have more follow-through, then you'll see more success, then you'll want to do more changes because you can. You're seeing how much you can follow through instead of how much you can't, right? That builds momentum. Your capacity for change will grow, but only if you start very small. So set aside and prioritize time. Start as close to your existing routines and habits as you can, and then make one small change. I often call it the minimum viable change. What's the minimum viable change I could make? Now, if you end up making more changes than that, hooray, that's fantastic. But we don't start by planning to make all of them. We plan the minimum and allow ourselves to overachieve. It's much more motivating than falling short. And then remember to plan for a real life. Plan for how you might actually feel in that situation when you have to enact your plan. How do you normally feel at that time or in that situation? Plan for that and then think about what could I do in that state. That will help you with your minimum viable change, right? Ultimately, you want something if you're like, you can scoff at it. Yeah, of course I could do that, no matter how I'm feeling. Great. That's the kind of change to make. So plan small changes, plan for a real life, and then take notice of what works and what doesn't, right? If you made a plan and then you were tempted not to follow the plan or you didn't follow the plan, pay attention to that. Don't hide. Don't put your head in the sand. Don't ignore it. Don't just wipe it clean, start again tomorrow. She'll be right. No. Let's learn from it. Let's understand. What worked? What didn't? How was I feeling? What was I thinking? What was going on? How come I made that choice? Now, was it a conscious, deliberate choice that was honoring my goals? Or was it just a reaction? Was it a lapse? Was it a falling back to an old habit? If it was, that's good information. Because then now we can plan to modify that habit. We can make a smaller, more realistic change. We could actually ask the question, what could I do? All right. And finally, to be successful, be patient with yourself. These small changes accumulate over time, right? Some people reject making these small changes because it's like, it's not fast enough, doesn't get me the result right now. And I really want you to consider thinking differently about that. Sometimes when we want the result right now, we rush and we skip the training part where we learn the skills and practice the habits. We build the capacity to keep the decision the way we want it. That takes time, it takes effort, it takes iteration. So you have to allow yourself to be patient. Allow it to take longer or go slower than you think it will. And ironically, when you do that, when you make the smaller changes and you allow it to take as long as it takes and you build the momentum, often you get there much faster than when you try and go hard. You try all the big changes and you try and just to be focused. Because that's not sustainable. Then you quit, you go back. Generally, we regress. I like to say I used to do that, lose some weight, and then I'd go, oh, I'm good now. And then I'd stop doing all the things that were working. And I'd go back to my old habits and put all the weight back on. Maybe bring some more friends. used to say my weight went recruiting. But for 13 years, I've maintained my weight. Why? Because I make small changes. I'm willing to be patient. I'm willing to build that momentum from small wins, many, many, many of them, over time. The big wins naturally follow. All right. So, those are my thoughts about planning. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. What do you like about planning? What works for you? What's your experience? What do you don't like? What do you not like about it? How do you resist it? What doesn't work? What do you find challenging? I'd love to know all those things. So share with me your experience, your thoughts about planning ahead and your experience of following or not following your plans in the comments. And speaking of planning, if you do want to plan for a successful Easter, it's only a couple of weeks away now, then make sure you join my Healthy Holiday Habits Easter edition. It's a 5-day training. I'm going to go live on Facebook like this every day for next week, Monday to Friday, to share my top tips and strategies for actually how to have an Easter that you love without missing out, without avoiding, but leaves you at the end rejoicing instead of regretting. How to create healthy holiday habits. And the truth is, if Easter's not your thing, they actually apply to any situation. These are really our fundamental skills you can use at any time, but really for any holiday, any weekend, any work event, any social gathering, any Christmas, any anniversary, any birthday, etc. These are healthy holiday habits. I'd love to share them with you next week. So join Healthy Holiday Habits. All right, always love hearing from you. So let me know what you like. Give me a like, give me a heart. If this has been helpful, if you'd like to listen to it again, make sure you save it. If you think someone else needs to hear it, make sure you share it. Feel free to share this with your friends, your family members, your colleagues. And then try making a more realistic plan. Try planning for your real life, making smaller changes than you've perhaps made in the past. Let me know how it goes. I want to help you, so reach out to me if you want that help, or join me in Healthy Holiday Habits and get the training for free. All right, that's my time. Have an amazing day. Are you going to try making a plan? If so, let me know how it goes. Make a plan you can follow and honor the goals, the dreams, the hopes that you have.